Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. This time we're tackling the Year of the Dragon.
Always a fun one.
It is, and we've got a juicy article to dig into today. It's called, Year of the Dragon Zodiac Fusion. Catchy, right?
Definitely eye-catching.
So, our mission today, for those of you joining us, is to unearth those essential dragon insights, personality, strengths, weaknesses, that kind of thing.
Good stuff.
Exactly. And a heads up. This article is really pushing dragon mugs and t-shirts and, well, pretty much anything you can slap a dragon on.
Standard. Can't have a dragon deep dive without a little bit of merch, right?
Right. But don't worry, we're here for the juicy stuff, not the sales pitch. So let's dive right in. The article kicks off with a pretty classic dragon description. Charismatic, powerful, natural leaders.
Yeah, that tracks. It's interesting how much those descriptions line up with, the mythology of dragons.
Totally.
Like across so many cultures, dragons are seen as these majestic, bold creatures,
Oh, for sure.
often associated with powerful elements like fire, which when you think about it really embodies that energy and transformation.
Makes sense that people born in the Year of the Dragon would embody some of those traits.
Absolutely. It's not just a random animal assigned to a year. There's a much deeper meaning tied to those symbolic connections.
Which is way more interesting than just saying, oh, you were born in this year, so you're destined to breathe fire, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so speaking of those dragon traits, the article highlights things like confidence, creativity, ambition, big ones.
Big ones. And ones that dragons are often known for sure.
But then it also says that these very strengths can sometimes be their downfall.
That's interesting.
What's that all about? How
Yeah.
can those positive qualities be a bad thing?
Well, any strength taken to an extreme can tip over into a weakness. Like, think of overflowing confidence, right?
Could easily slip into arrogance if you aren't careful.
Exactly. Especially if that dragon isn't particularly mindful of how they're coming across.
Oh, totally. Or even that incredible creativity you mentioned.
Right. Like, that could so easily become impatience.
Yeah, if they think someone else isn't on their level, or...
Exactly. They may see others as less visionary and, get impatient.
So it's not that dragons are inherently, difficult people. It's just that those strong traits need the right environment to, be channeled effectively.
That's a great way to put it, yeah. Think of, a dragon-born entrepreneur.
Okay, I like where this is going.
Their drive, their vision, could lead them to, revolutionize industries. But that same drive, if it's not managed well, might also lead them to just bulldoze over their colleagues' ideas,
Even unintentionally, just because they're so focused on their own vision.
Exactly.
So how do you navigate that? If you're working with a dragon, how do you respect those strengths without, getting steamrolled?
It's a dance.
It is a dance.
And the article does give some tips for dealing with dragons, which we'll get into. But I think it all comes back to understanding those core motivations, those driving forces.
Okay, yeah, because we just talked about how dragons might come across as, arrogant sometimes.
Right. But if you dig a little deeper, that arrogance, a lot of the time, stems from this deeply held belief in their own vision.
So instead of just thinking, wow, this person thinks they're better than everyone else.
Which, let's be honest, can be a tempting thought.
It can be, especially when you're on the receiving end of it.
For sure. But instead of going straight to that, maybe trying to understand, okay, why might they be acting this way? What's the root of it?
I like that.
They might struggle to receive feedback, not because they think they're always right, but because their natural confidence can just come across as dismissive, even when they don't mean it to be.
Wow, you've just unlocked a whole new perspective on that for me.
Glad to hear it.
Now, another big topic the article dives into is relationships with dragons. And of course, no dragon deep dive would be complete without talking about those compatibility pairings.
It's a must. Everyone wants to know who they're most compatible with.
Of course. So spill the tea. Which signs are we looking at?
Well, they do mention the rat, the monkey, the rooster, and the snake as being generally compatible with dragons.
Okay, so far so good. Those seem like they'd vibe well with the whole dragon energy.
Right. But, and it's a big but, it's crucial to remember, these are just starting points.
Yeah, it's not a guarantee that, you're a dragon, they're a rat, you're destined to be soulmates.
Not at all. It's much more nuanced than that. And the article actually makes a good point about this. They say even though these pairings might have a natural kind of affinity, it's important to look at the individuals involved.
You can't just slap a label on it and call it a day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You have to consider how their specific energies, like, interact, the nuances of their personalities beyond just their sign. Like, for example, they highlight potential clashes between dragons and those born in the year of the dog.
Which on the surface seems a little strange. I mean, dogs are known for loyalty, which dragons value.
Right. It seems counterintuitive.
So what creates that friction then?
It often comes down to their differing needs and approaches to, well, to life. Dogs tend to really crave security, predictability, a stable, calm environment. Dragons, on the other hand,
They thrive on a bit of chaos, a little bit of the unknown.
exactly, a little spontaneity. So you've got one sign that thrives on stability and another that wants to shake things up.
A recipe for disaster, maybe?
Yeah.
Or just a relationship that requires a little extra work.
That's the thing. It's not that it's impossible for a dragon and a dog to have a successful relationship, but it definitely requires understanding those fundamental differences right from the get-go.
Right, you go in with your eyes open.
Absolutely. And that's kind of the beauty of exploring these compatibilities. It's about recognizing that each sign has its own rhythm, I guess you could say.
I like that. Their own beat.
And it's not about changing who you are to fit with someone else's rhythm, but more about understanding how those different rhythms might interact. Just like with the dog and dragon dynamic, the article mentions that dragon-sheep dynamics can be a bit tricky.
Okay, dragons and sheep. I have to admit, I'm a little nervous about this pairing, but maybe I'm biased.
Why is that?
Oh, no particular reason. Just a feeling. So, why is this one seen as potentially challenging?
So sheep, like dogs, are drawn to a certain level of, like, emotional security.
They're sensitive souls.
Exactly, which is a wonderful quality, of course.
Yeah.
But they might find that dragon boldness, that intensity, a bit overwhelming, even if it's not directed at them.
That tracks. It's like, how does a dragon with all that natural intensity navigate that without feeling like they have to dim their own light to make someone else comfortable?
Right. And that's where those how to deal with the dragon tips come in handy. For instance, the article really stresses the importance of direct communication with dragons.
Okay, so no hinting around.
Not so much.
Right.
Because, sheep, being more sensitive, might rely on those subtle cues, those hints, which a dragon might completely miss.
And then hurt feelings ensue.
Exactly. So instead of leading to misunderstandings or someone feeling like they're not being heard, sheep need to learn how to speak dragon,
Which is?
which basically means being upfront, saying what's on your mind.
Ah, so cutting through all that. What's the word? Subtlety.
Exactly. Clear, direct communication is key. No beating around the bush, no expecting the dragon to just get
And
it.
get it or get burnt.
Right. And this applies across the board, not just in romantic relationships, but also friendships and definitely those fiery workplace dynamics.
Speaking of work, let's dive into the article's advice for surviving and maybe even thriving in the wild world of working with a dragon. Imagine this. You land your dream job, but then you find out you're working directly with a dragon. Maybe they're your boss, maybe they're a teammate. But either way, you're in the dragon's den now. So what's the secret to not just making it out alive, but actually rocking it in that environment?
Well, if you want to really thrive working with a dragon, it's all about, like, tapping into their ambition.
Which we know they've got plenty of.
Right. Remember how we were talking about their drive to create, to lead, to, like, make a real impact?
Yeah, it's a core part of who they are.
It is. And that's your key right there. So if you find yourself working with a dragon who's constantly pitching these big outside-the-box ideas.
Which, let's be honest, can be a little overwhelming sometimes.
Oh, for sure. Especially if you're more of a play-it-safe type of person.
Totally. But what you're saying is the best approach isn't to shut them down, it's to figure out how to make it happen.
You got it. Instead of thinking, that will never work, shift your mindset to, okay, how can we make this work?
I like that.
And honestly, that's such a valuable skill to have in any workplace, not just with dragons.
100%. So practically speaking, how do you actually approach a dragon with concerns or like potential challenges without triggering that whole "you don't believe in my vision" reaction?
That's the million-dollar question. And it all comes down to framing. So instead of saying, that's impossible, try something like, I totally see where you're going with this, and I'm wondering how we can address X obstacle.
So you're on board with their vision, you're just bringing a little dose of reality to the table.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because a dragon would much rather hear, I'm up for this challenge, let's brainstorm, than this is never going to get off the ground.
Way more inspiring that way.
Right. Dragons respect people who can match their energy, who aren't afraid to think big, even if it means stepping a little outside their comfort zone.
So basically, don't be afraid to dream big with a dragon. Just maybe bring your practicality hat, too.
Exactly. They need to feel like their ambition is valued, even if you need to tweak the path to get there.
Okay, this is giving me a whole new appreciation for the dragons in my own life. So we've covered work, but this article isn't all business. There's a whole section on like lucky numbers and colors.
Oh, we love that
It's
stuff.
kind of a fun rabbit hole to go down, right?
It is like a little bonus.
Hmm.
And according to the article, the luckiest numbers for dragons are 1, 6, and 7.
Ooh, I'm gonna have to tell my dragon friend to go buy a lottery ticket.
Right. Tell them to put it on those numbers and see what happens. But,
Right.
even beyond just like actual luck, those numbers are thought to attract good fortune and prosperity
Right.
in a more like symbolic way.
Interesting. And what about those lucky colors? Anything I should be wearing next time I hang out with a dragon?
Let's see. Gold, silver, and blue are all mentioned here.
Which, if you think about it, really fits with the whole dragon vibe.
Totally. Gold for success, blue for wisdom. It
Uh,
just makes sense.
right, like each detail ties back into those core dragon qualities we've been talking about.
It's all connected. They even have a lucky gemstone,
Oh, do tell.
the ruby.
Okay, the ruby. Yeah, that tracks. It's a stone that just screams passion, power, intensity. Very on brand for a dragon.
Right. It's fascinating how those symbolic associations, whether it's colors, gemstones, even those lucky numbers, can give you a deeper understanding of a sign's energy.
It's like you're piecing together a whole picture, not just looking at like a random list of traits.
Exactly. Which, speaking of, brings us back to the article's insights on love and relationships with dragons. This is where it gets juicy.
Okay, so let's dish. Everyone wants to know, how do you navigate love with a dragon? What's the secret?
Well, one thing the article stresses is the importance of respecting a dragon's inherent need for, like, freedom.
Ah, so don't try to cage the dragon. Got it.
Exactly. And this isn't to say they aren't capable of commitment, because they absolutely are, but they need a partner who gets that, who respects their individuality, who won't try to clip their wings.
Because if there's one thing dragons are not known for, it's sitting still.
Right. Trying to control a dragon, to fit them into some neat little box, that is a surefire way to create friction in a relationship.
So what's the alternative?
The article suggests focusing on building a partnership based on mutual respect, shared adventures, and definitely a good dose of excitement.
Because if there's one thing dragons love, it's squeezing the most out of life.
Precisely. For someone who can keep up with that energy, a relationship with a dragon is anything but boring.
I bet. So we talked earlier about the importance of direct communication with dragons, but the article emphasizes this even more in a romantic context. What's so special about it for love?
Well, it all goes back to their nature, right? Dragons are bold, they're straightforward, and they say what's on their mind. They might not always pick up on, like, those subtle cues or hints.
Especially when it comes to like emotions and stuff.
Exactly. So if you need to communicate something important to your dragon partner, being direct is always the best way to go.
Honesty really is the best policy with a dragon.
It really is. Trying to manipulate the situation or hoping they'll just get the hint, that's probably going to backfire.
Oh yeah, dragons can sniff out that kind of thing a mile away.
Exactly. So open, honest communication. That's your recipe for a successful relationship with a dragon, hands down.
This is gold. Now, we've covered a lot of ground here today, everything from understanding those core dragon traits to navigating their, shall we say, dynamic personalities in different areas of life. But I feel like with astrology, there's always more to uncover, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. This is really just scratching the surface. And speaking of which, the article actually leaves us with a pretty thought-provoking idea.
Okay, you can't just hit us with a cliffhanger like that. What's this thought-provoking idea they leave us with?
Well, we've been, really digging deep into Chinese astrology this whole time, focusing on the year of the dragon and all that. But the article reminds us that there's, like, another layer we could be adding to this.
Ooh, another layer, do tell.
Western astrology.
Oh, interesting. So not just you're a dragon, but more like you're an Aries dragon or a Taurus dragon and so on.
Exactly. Imagine the deeper understanding you could get just by, like, combining these systems. For instance, we've talked a lot about dragons being super ambitious.
Right.
Yeah.
It's one of their defining traits.
Right. But think about it. An Aries dragon, known for that, like fiery, impulsive energy, they might express their ambition very differently from, say, a Capricorn dragon.
Oh, totally. Capricorns are much more about strategy, the long game.
Exactly. So you're taking those core dragon traits and then filtering them through the lens of their Western sign. adds a whole other dimension.
That's so cool. I'm already thinking about all the dragons I know and trying to picture, like, what their Western signs are. Definitely gives me something to ponder.
I know, right? It's a fun thought experiment.
It is. Well, there you have it, dragon fans. Today we explored, well, the heart of the dragon, really. Their strengths, their weaknesses, and how to deal with those fiery personalities in different areas of life.
We looked at how that powerful dragon symbol ties into their personality. And we even dipped our toes into those classic compatibility pairings, remembering, of course, that those are just starting points.
Not a guarantee.
Right. Ultimately, it's about understanding each individual and how they express their dragon nature.
It's like you've given us this amazing treasure map, and now it's up to us to go exploring. Maybe with a dragon mug in hand.
Why not?
This has been an amazing deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring and stay curious, everyone.